everybody, my name is Rainer and this is Rainier Books. Welcome to another video, welcome to another review about a book. And today it is Tokyo Vice, an American reporter on the police beat in Japan by Jake Adelstein. How reliable is a first-person narrator? How truthful is a memoir? These eternal questions come up when you speak about Tokyo Vice by Jake Adelstein. But let's set the framework first. Not in 1993, the 24-year-old American student Jake Adelstein was hired as the first ever foreigner to work as a reporter for the largest newspaper in the world, the Yomiuri Shimbun in Tokyo, Japan, that even today in 2023 has every day a circulation of 9 million copies. Adelstein had moved to Japan already in 1998 as a very young man. He was fascinated by Japanese culture, by Japanese history, and he earned his paychecks by teaching English, as many native speakers do in Japan, but he was also giving, whatever that is, Swedish massage to rich Japanese housewives. At least that is what he's saying in his memoir. At the same time, Adelstein studied at Tokyo Sophia University, and he reached a very high level of proficiency in the Japanese language, which enabled him to do the test for the Yomiuri Shimbun. Because at that time, I don't know how it is today, but at that time in the 1990s, you could become a reporter at the two biggest newspapers in Japan, the Yomiuri Shimbun and the Asahi Shimbun, by passing a very extensive test. And Adelstein was the first gaijin, the first foreigner to ever pass this test and to ever work at the Yomiuri Shimbun. In the book, Adelstein is telling about his initiation as a gaijin reporter in Japan, also about all the stereotypes, about all the prejudices that he meets as a foreigner, because foreigners are, at that time, in the 1990s at least, regarded a little suspicious in the very homogenic Japanese society. In the book we learn a lot about exciting cases that Jake Adelstein has covered over the course of 13 years when he worked for the Yomiuri Shimbun as a crime beat reporter. 13 years. We learn about the difficulties that he had in the beginning by understanding the job culture, the work culture, and how to behave, how to wear the right suit for the right occasion, and understanding the cultural codes and behavior which are difficult at times, and he screws up a couple of times, or he gets sort of bullied a couple of times because he doesn't behave in the right manner. In the Japan of the 1990s, Adelstein tells us every crime reporter needed a cop that he was affiliated to, a cop that he sort of served and visited and met him in private in order to get information about crimes that happen, in order to write stories and articles that are interesting to the readers of the Shimbun. So Jake finds a police officer called Sekiguchi. It's called Sekiguchi in the book, and he regularly visits the family. The two daughters get English lessons from Jake Adelstein, or he just babysits the daughters in the beginning, and he discusses a lot of cases with their father. Sekiguchi becomes the teacher who explains the underworld of Japan, the organized crime syndicates, the Yakuza. There are several cases that we learn more about that are sort of in different chapters, like a series of reports of articles. This book is sort of put together in a lot of different stories that are being told. And one of them is the disappearance and murder of the British citizen Lucy Blackman. She was one of the many women who were victims of and raped and killed by a man called Joji Obara, who allegedly raped between 150 and 400 women. Joji Obara was a very rich man. He was a real estate man. He was into real estate, and he also was money laundering. He was laundering money for the Yakuza. So with that case, Adelstein gets into this world of Yakuza when he's doing research and when he's talking to people. I learned a lot of details about the Yakuza in this book. For example, that they are officially registered. They have offices like a normal company. They have business cards that they hand out to people. And they have very interesting connections to Japanese politics, very often to the governing LDP party, as Adelstein claims, and to corporate business in Japan. And Japan is generally, in terms of crime, one of the most safe countries, the safest countries in the world. I visited twice, and the 34 million metropolitan city, the largest city in the world of Tokyo, Japan, is really safer. It feels a lot safer than many European cities and American cities that have only 200,000 people. Tokyo has 34 million and it feels so safe. Nevertheless, there's also a large red light business in Tokyo and other cities. And this business, as in all the parts of the world, is controlled by the Yakuza, the organized crime. Jake Adelstein is an expert in the red light scene of Tokyo. He has worked Vice for many years for the newspaper. He was a regular guest in hostess clubs. And in order to get information, he says in the book, he often had to get very, very close to prostitutes. Like when a hostess paid him approximately $100 to sexually satisfy her, or when he had to sleep with women in order to get intel to put together facts in his story. This is when the book really, really disturbs me. Also when he very openly describes that he works like 80 hours a week, like many Japanese people do, I know that, and almost never sees his Japanese wife and kids. He's also betraying his wife actually by doing his work, by going so long in his work in order to get information. Adelstein landed his super scoop when he uncovered the story that one of the leading Yakuza bosses, Tadamasa Goto, founder of the legendary Gotogumi Syndicate, received a visa to the United States from the FBI, although he was banned from entering the United States before that. But he got a visa from the FBI in order to get a liver transplant at UCLA Hospital in California, in Los Angeles. And it's said that he paid $100,000 to sort of jump the queue and get first or second or third in line to get his liver transplant in the United States. Jake Adelstein claims that Tadamasa Goto threatened to kill him and his family because he exposed how Goto jumped the queue and how he went to the United States. This and other parts of the book were questioned by a long article in the Hollywood Reporter last year, actually, written by Gavin J. Blair, and the article was published in April 2022, just when the television show Tokyo Vice aired on HBO, and I put a link down below to the article in the Hollywood Reporter. Adelstein had sold the film rights of Tokyo Vice already quite early after the book was released in 2009, but there was also, the cast was almost complete, and it was said that Daniel Radcliffe, known to each and everyone as Harry Potter in the movies, Daniel Radcliffe was supposed to play Jake Adelstein, but then the movie was never shot. A couple of years passed, and then HBO got interested in the story and in the material, and they made a television series out of it, starring musical star Ansel Elgort as Adelstein and Japanese movie star Ken Watanabe as Hiroto Katagiri, aka Sekiguchi, in the series. The TV show uses Adelstein's character, but then it changes a lot of the stories and introduces characters that are not in the book. Like, for example, the young Yakuza Sato, who's not in the book, who becomes almost friendly-ish with Jake, and Samantha Porter, an American woman who lives in Tokyo as a hostess. She works as a call girl, you could say, in a club where rich Japanese men sort of look for Western women. Both Adelstein's book and the HBO series based on his book are interesting stuff. Really, I liked reading the book. I liked even more maybe watching the TV show, and I'm very happy that the TV show is renewed and that the work for a second season of Tokyo Vice already has begun in November of 22. The book has really some disturbing scenes, even especially if you are sensible to very sexual content. But nevertheless, I think as a whole it is entertaining and even informative. A memoir is never a neutral piece of work, and it always tells more about the author than the things narrated. This guy Jake Adelstein, he is a little bit a narcissist, I think, but he is doing a good job in delivering a good story nevertheless. If you're sensitive to some of the content, don't read it. But overall, I think it's interesting in Goodreads. On Goodreads, Jake Adelstein has written a review about his own book on Goodreads, and he gives his book 4 out of 5 stars, and writes that actually he wanted to give it 5 stars, but then he was a modest guy, and said, okay, I give it only 4 stars. So I would give it 3.5. It's interesting to read. I'm interested in Japan. If you are interested in Japan, if you are interested in true crime, and if you are interested in sort of ambiguous narrators, then this is a book for you. And the television show is definitely good. So Tokyo Vice is 3.5 out of 5 for me. And I see you very soon with another single review. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Comments down below as always. Thank you. Bye.